got the signals for the Baltimore Colts. Unitas gives to Amici. The Colts are the world champions. Amici scores.
It's amazing, sensational, dramatic, heart-rending, exciting, thrilling finish in the history of college football. California won the big game.
5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
This is Phil Steele.
This is Mike Burnham.
This is Wes Durham.
This is Mike Ashley.
Hi, this is Chuck Foreman, number 44 of the Minnesota Vikings.
Woo, mercy, this is handsome Jimmy Vane, the Boogie Woogie Man.
This is Coach Fry with Virginia Tech Football, and you are listening to Big Dog Sports Talk.
Are you ready to rock? Are you ready to roll? Okay, let's do it.
You're in the doghouse with Rick Watson on Big Dog Sports Talk, presented by Pulaski County Sports and Entertainment. Join us in the Family Fencing Studios and chime in on the McClellan Chiropractic chat line. He's keeping cool with help from Little River Heating and Air, but this show is straight fire. And now, the big dog, Rick Watson.
And good morning here on this Monday, rainy, overcast Monday. Everything that encapsulates what a Monday is as we head back into the work week. Hope everybody is doing okay and hope your weekend went well. Scheduled today, Jermaine Ferrell, Phil Elmassian, and Todd Grantham. And we'll see how all that unfolds as the morning wears on. It's up on the McClellan Chiropractic chat line. Good morning, Steve. Or on the professional door text line, 540-391-0788. We would love to hear from you today. We're going to recap, have our reaction Monday from the entire football weekend. Virginia Tech back in the win column as they knock off California with just a dominating running game. Not unsurprising. Hey, Pat, good to see you. As you obviously noted, and if you followed me on social media, we had to cancel the live stream on Saturday. We got the call you don't want to get on Saturday morning. My fiance, we were out our morning walk, and we got the call that her mother had passed away. So that happened on Saturday morning. So we canceled the live stream, and thanks to everybody who reached out, saw the messages. But tough time right now. But we'll muddle through, and we'll do the best that we can as we go forward. So I don't know if there'll be another day that'll work to try to reschedule the live stream in the future. So I'll keep you posted. But yeah, that's why the live stream was canceled. So good morning, Opal. How are you? Hey, Paul. Good morning. Yeah, so with Virginia Tech's win, now you have Brian Kelly fired. We said it was going to feel like it was going to be once a week, and it kind of feels like it's once a week, right? Crazy. $54 million buyout. They're trying to come to some kind of agreement on it. So Scott Woodard, the AD there at LSU, also hired Jimbo Fisher at A&M. So now combined, those schools are paying buyouts of over $100 million, and yet he keeps his job. It's crazy. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate the well wishes in chat. It means a lot. It's one of those things where, her mom was a little older, but she was, in pretty good health. She was dealing with one thing, but we felt like, okay, well, they diagnosed that she's going to be okay. And we talked to her the previous night. And then when you get that call, and it's usually from a family member that usually doesn't call early on a Saturday, you're just, you kind of go, uh-oh. And then sure enough, that was the news. So we dealt with that throughout the weekend. It will affect the show later in the week. There's so many family members, so many siblings, so many folks that the funeral will be next weekend. So more than likely, there won't be a Friday show this week and probably not a next Monday show because we'll be flying out to Louisiana on Friday and then coming back early in the morning on the following Monday, a week from today. So we will not probably have but 4 shows this week and then 4 the next. So, but we'll keep you up. We'll keep you updated on everything here. So, but let's go back to Friday. It feels like an eternity ago, I guess, because it was, right? Double overtime. Virginia Tech ran for 357 yards. Marcellus Hawkins and Kyron Drones each had over 100 yards. And when you run for 6.2 yards a carry, you're usually going to win football games. And that's what happened. Drones didn't have to throw it much. He only completed 9 passes, but 3 of those were touchdowns. And Tech was able to do whatever it wanted offensively. I mean, almost 500 total yards of offense. California is a pretty good offensive team. They could not run the football, though, at all. Although a lot of times, I know why they do it, but, rushing yards get skewed so much when you have sacks of quarterbacks. It goes against rushing. But Tech got their 3rd win, and they're, I think, 10.5-point dogs against Louisville this weekend at home. But we said this would likely be, a game that they could get. I got to be honest, I didn't expect it to go to overtime. But it was kind of a pinball game back and forth. But they were able to get it done. And that's good. They're still fighting. They're still playing hard. We talked about that. And that's a nice win. Very good win for them. All over the place. So we'll get your thoughts on that. Now Tech sits at 3-5. No new news that I heard over the weekend, coaching-wise. So I don't have anything for you there. Then again, with everything that happened with the news we got from my fiance's mom, I wasn't really, got to be honest, I wasn't paying a lot of attention to football on Saturday. So yeah, and now Brian Kelly's out at LSU. And there was a good tweet, and there's a good story in Yahoo, by the way, by Ross Dellinger. And you should just read about how these boosters and what's going on right now. So the top 4 buyouts right now is Kelly at 53, Franklin officially, they say, at 49, and Napier at Florida with 21. Gunday at Oklahoma State is $15 million. So now you have 12 openings, right? 12 openings already, college football. The LSU athletic director, Scott Woodward, hired Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M, Brian Kelly at LSU. Both were fired, and the schools have to pay $130 million in buyouts. Yet he still has a job because, So the boosters had a heavy influence. If you read what was going on at LSU really during their game against Texas A&M, it's very interesting, the drama that was building up in where Dellinger was up in the suites as A&M just throttled LSU in the second half. I mean, it was very ugly. And they haggled all day yesterday with the money. I mean, Louisiana doesn't have the resources of a Texas or Florida. It's not like it's a rich state, but there are very wealthy people there. And LSU football is, they were up there talking about it in their minds, and it doesn't mean that it's legitimate, but they're saying, hey, you know what? In their minds, it's bigger than life. And it's just wild. I think Kelly's going to finish 34-14, as Prometheus just said. 3 losses, all to ranked teams. Brian Kelly, not the most likable guy in the world, so I'm sure there were people that were looking for a reason, right? He kind of came across as the LSU version of Justin Fuente, a guy that was just unlikable, guy that you couldn't get to know or get on board with. So when the time came, he had to go, and that's what happened. Yeah, Paul, I mean, I was going to talk about that too. It's just the officiating in that Tech game. I don't know what to tell you anymore. The roughing the passer call that kept the game alive. I don't know. It's moments like that, Paul, and everybody knows it's moments like that that make you think. We see all this going on with the NBA. We talked about it with the NFL. There was a lot more controversy yesterday. It never ends. It never ends. And when you see calls like that, it's just, it blows your mind. It blew my mind. It really did. Worst, maybe we see a lot of awful roughing the passer calls in the NFL. That was one of the worst ones I've seen at any level. I mean, he had left his feet. The defender had left his feet. Quarterback still had the ball. I mean, what's he supposed to do? He's supposed to wrap up, right? He wrapped him up, brought him to the ground. Of course, he's going to fall. He did. It's not like he ran his helmet into his chest. He tried to pop off of him as quickly as possible. And then they call roughing the passer, and you're just sitting there. It makes you feel like it was intentional to keep the game alive, didn't it? They don't deserve the benefit of the doubt anymore. And you can't just chalk all this up to conspiracy theory anymore. I don't want to hear any more conspiracy theory crap. It's become too blatant. It's now become a federal government thing in the NBA. Good morning, Morris. How are you? From I-81's technology corridor in the north to I-77's foggy Fancy Gap. Oh, and it is foggy. And now I-95's jammed up lanes in Palm Coast. We are on the air. Yes, we are, in spite of a very difficult weekend. And the targeting calls. I don't know what targeting is anymore. I never looked at those hits and thought, oh, that's targeting. Like you could tell the one immediately was leading with the shoulder, which they got right. To their credit, they got it right when they reviewed them. The second one, I felt like they could have stayed with that call if they really felt like there wasn't enough evidence, but I was glad they overturned it. The first one was terrible because he hit with the shoulder, and then when he hit with the shoulder, the helmet's made incidental contact, which is what we've said all along about targeting. And they seem like they've tried to fix it. Hokey Bob says, what officiating? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what that was, Joseph. I have no idea. No idea. It was a perfect tackle. I don't know what's the defender supposed to do. I mean, I'm sorry, it kept the game alive, and it almost could have cost Tech the football game had they not executed in overtime. You think about it. What if they'd have turned the ball over? And then, after Cal scored the touchdown and, just take the lead in the first overtime. What if and then everybody's going to look at that call. Thank you, Morris. Appreciate you. Good morning, Rodney. How are you? So here we are. Tech with a win, which is a good vibe. But another major job is open, and not shockingly, it's in the SEC. Shane Beamer, his team played hard, blew the lead late against Alabama. So they're now 3-5, and there's a lot of things going on there. Good morning, Ricardo. How are you? Good to see you. Yeah, saw that as well. The roughing the passer call against Lane Kiffin's Ole Miss Rebs. And now Lane Kiffin's got a choice. Does he want to go to Florida or LSU? He's going to be likely the top candidate at each one of those places. Let me ask you this. I'm just going to throw this out there. Now that LSU is open and they were very aggressive in providing the buyout, do you think they're going to go out and try to get Nick Saban back? He was kind of coy. Remember that when he was talking about his wife? she doesn't want to hear it. Or then again, no, she might be attracted to whatever amount they would offer. Remember that? It feels like if he was going to seriously entertain any opening, that it would be a place that he was at before, that he, said that he'd stayed at. The only place that could rival that was Alabama. It does feel like it, Prometheus. It feels like Shane Beamer's days are definitely numbered in Columbia. I know just from people down there that the AD and he do not have a good relationship. He did not hire Shane Beamer. Good morning, Troy. Thanks for the updates again. Another loss for Pulaski County. Is that 17 in a row to Salem? Whew. So you're looking at Pulaski County going to be 3-7. That's 5 straight losing seasons. So they've got Hidden Valley, who hasn't won a game. And you got PH, who hasn't lost a game. So you're not going to beat them. So you're going to win. You probably beat Hidden Valley. So you're going to be 3-7. Is that right? So likely 3-7. A lot that I could say about that, but I will not right now. We want to thank the NRB Super Bowl. They've been around for 25 years, 382-5525. This week is Boogie Bowling on Halloween night. James Lawson, Mobile Home Supply since 1997 at 300 North Franklin Street in Christiansburg. Give James a call, 381-8011. Appreciate James and everybody over at Lawson's. Go get your next vehicle at Harvey's GM. Go see Brad Harvey. He's the absolute best. And all the folks at Family Fencing, sponsor of our studio here in Reiner. And we appreciate them greatly. They're going to be doing wintertime fencing that doesn't matter. No digs, locally owned and operated. You see the number 540-200-8294, familyfencingnrb.com. So go see them. Go hang out with them. Mention Mark Hundley and everybody in McClellan Chiropractic. Chat line going absolutely nuts. Glad to see Mark hook up with Travis Williams and everybody, professional door sponsor of our text line at 540-391-0788. Garage doors better than anybody. Family owned and operated 38 years right across from New River Community College. Want to thank Larry Ramsey, everybody at National Bank, member FDIC. Exclusive banking partner at BDST. There's the professional door logo too, by the way. It's great. Great logo. And we are presented all the time by Pulaski County Sports and Entertainment. And we are so honored. We want everybody to experience Pulaski County and beyond with what Jonathan Sweet and Tim Miller and everybody is doing there. We want to try to continue to expose you to all the great things that's going on with that group. So make sure you read up on them, check them out. They're outstanding. See the blue and black truck, Little River Heating and Air, 1095 Radford Street in Christiansburg, Charles Lee, 540-553-2971. And I haven't come up with it yet. We'll unveil it tomorrow. The Attorney Ryan Pry BDST fan question of the week, 701 West Main Street in Radford, trust and estate planning. And I'm not there yet with the question. If you have one that you want, let me know. Ryan, anyone, give me a yell. Let me know what you think. Let me know. So, yeah. All right. So your thoughts on all these things. Let me know what you think. Tech with a win. What'd you think about the game? A lot of adversity in that game, but again, kudos to Philip Montgomery. They realized, I think, early on they had a huge advantage. Now, number 0, let me get his stats. I'll tell you what. Number 0, and I can't think of his name right now because my mind is kind of mesh after the weekend. But he was a good football player, a really good football player. And I want to see where we were with his tackles because he was it was Cade Ulave. He had 19 tackles in the game. He was all over the place. That guy's going to be playing on Sundays. 19 tackles, 9 solo in the game. He was really, really good. But Tech, I think, figured out early they could dominate up front, and they did. I mean, 357 yards is a huge number, man. That is a huge number. Just gaping holes the entire game. He was really, really good. Hey, Jimmy, I know the outcome was, hey, West Virginia played well, though, right? They didn't lose that game by much against TCU. Morris says, Saban to LSU, the end of the Miami Dolphins. The famous lie, I will not be the coach of Alabama. That's true. He did say that, didn't he? And then I don't know how long it was before he was the coach at Alabama, and the rest is history. Yeah, he was. Yeah. That kid could play, man. He was a different type of player. Not enough for them to win, but he was a good player. Yeah, a lot of people did leave. I guess they felt like the same thing was going to happen. Yeah, I did see that. I did notice that. Moore says it's a shame that Montgomery won't be considered. What he's done to keep the team together is amazing. Yeah, he's been outstanding. He really has. He's the class he's gone about this is really impressive. And I don't think he's going to get – I don't know. I think Tech fan will appreciate what Philip Montgomery's doing, what he has done. I really do. I think it's going to be a situation where Tech fans going to acknowledge that, and he could have, gone with this with a totally different attitude, but he hasn't. Teams played hard. He's kept them focused, and it's been impressive, man. It really has, even in the losses. And they laid it on the line Saturday. They did. Well, you'd have to think, Paul, right? You would have to think somebody would look at him. I don't know if they're going to look at him as being a head coach again. Maybe they will. Associate head coach somewhere. But he's going to have an opportunity. There's no question. And, I keep thinking about what many of you have brought up in chat. Are there going to be enough quality coaches to fill all these positions? So maybe all this helps Shane Beamer a little bit. I don't know. I'm just kind of speculating out some of these other jobs. Florida State, Wisconsin. Both of those jobs definitely feel like they're going to come open. So there's 2 more Power 4 jobs. I don't think it seems like a foregone conclusion for Florida State and Wisconsin unless they just dramatically turn it around. And the Noles are coming off a bye now to finish their season. Who knows? We'll know how much that team is still engaged with the games they have coming up. So, we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. But more jobs are going to be open, even ones that we're probably not thinking about right now. And I just know the agents are extremely, extremely happy. Extremely happy. Jimmy Sexton is already a very rich man. He's going to be so rich, so much more richer after this cycle. And that's a great point too, Matthew. And you know what this spells out too? We've been talking about it, and our guests have talked about it, how hard it is to find the right football coach. It's not easy. If it were, you wouldn't have all this happening. I mean, this is insanity. And I wrote about this about a month ago in one of my Patriot articles, how it just felt like we're going to have this onslaught of it, and it's coming now. It's going to be every weekend. I said this 3 weeks ago, and it's worked out every week so far, that every weekend there's going to be another Power 4 opening, and that's where we are right now. And no, not every hire will be an upgrade. They will think that it is, and then you get a year or two in, you're going to go, I mean, you look at Brian Kelly. Do I think Brian Kelly deserves to be fired? If you look at his record, and as Prometheus said earlier, no. I mean, it's off 3 great games, but there's just different criteria. Maybe it's just unrealistic fan expectations. I mean, how do you chalk it up? Is it just unrealistic fan bases? Is donors? Is it lack of control that we see from the athletic departments? I mean, Scott Woodward clearly has no control down there. He was told he had to make this move. Ryan probably needs to change his business model to coaching agent. There, maybe so. Yeah, in Memphis, there you go. Ryan Silverfield, his stock was way down, and then what does he do? He goes out and gets a ranked win against another team who's coached by a guy that Tech fan likes at USF. And that's a nice recovery for him. I would think that's going to help him because that team had to be just like, whoa, how did we lose as 22-point favorites to a team with an interim coach the week before? Then you come back and then you beat a really good South Florida team. He's a good coach. I know he had a hiccup, but he brought him back. He did. He brought him back. Wayne, it's going to be competitive now for Chesney at JMU. Yeah. It kind of feels like that's a guy that if we don't believe that Tech is seriously considering him, you have to believe that there are other schools who are definitely, and I mean definitely, considering him, right? That's what it feels like to me. So I would agree with that 100%. Hey, Brian, good morning. Montgomery almost cried during the past game interview on the field. He's definitely pouring his heart out. Yeah. You can't do anything but pull for that guy and appreciate. Hey, WV Cole. No, what did he say? What did McAfee say? I know McAfee's battling with ESPN. That's kind of funny to see behind the scenes. What did he say? He said about a donor not paying up and he stepped in to pay. I did not see that. Paul, and you might be right. Kelly never lived down when he met, he came out it was either before or at halftime of a basketball game, and he came out with the fake accent. Disingenuous from the first time he made an appearance. Oh, at West Virginia, really? That's cool. No, I didn't see that. I did not see that. Yeah, UVA won by 1 inch. Hey, you know what? We give him a lot of slack and everything going on with the relationships creepy, but give Bill Belichick's team a little credit, right? They fought the week before at Cal losing, had a chance to win. Remember, they fumbled going in the end zone. They would have beaten Cal. And then he didn't hesitate. They scored late, tried to beat UVA on a 2-point conversion, and the kid came, about half a yard shy. And UVA hung on. UVA's won some very tight games, man. Kudos to Tony Elliott, though, because if you can win the close games, that says a lot about your team, and they're winning them consistently. Yeah, poor Marva. But I know Marva, she's going to be impressed by the way they have played. So you got to give them a little bit of credit there, I think. With the way they've come out and the way they've played. Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, Phil Montgomery, we said it, I brought it up right after they beat NC State, and people were pretty down on the idea of him being considered for the job, but he's got everything that you want to be around a program to make it successful, whether he's even if he's not the head coach, he can be an associate head coach. Somewhere he's going to make a staff a lot better, yeah, if it's not here in Blacksburg. Team has looked so much more organized, even though they've been shorthanded. He had them ready after the bye week to come out with a lot of energy, and they did. And there were just some mind-blowingly horrible calls. throughout college football on Saturday, yesterday. Yeah, I mean, it's a never-ending cycle. And in lieu of what we found out about the NBA officially being rigged in many cases, and we don't know the extent yet, you now have to sit back every week and go, all right, did what I just watched, was that legitimate? Was that real? Or was that just entertainment? And I hate that. I hate that we have to feel that way as sports fans. Hilarious how much ESPN buried the whole NBA thing since they've been so in bed with the league. And they won't even talk about it now. Does anybody take that league seriously? Is anybody even considering any of these games going on right now? I mean, NBA's playing games. Does anybody care other than people who go to the games because of status or whatever? And then college basketball is getting started. Let's see. A couple people asked me in chat. I believe Duquesne beat Tech by 2 in the exhibition. I think I saw that. 83-81, 84-82, something like that. Don't know much about Duquesne heading into the season, but it's an exhibition, so you're trying to do a lot of different things. Don't read too much into it. I can remember watching Wilt Chamberlain. Wow, that's cool. Yeah. I wish I could have watched Wilt Chamberlain. I see his highlights. That's pretty cool, Stinson. So Memphis plays Rice on Friday, and then they play Tulane the next week. So there you go. See how they finish up. The plate behind me. Yeah, right here. See right there? That's my 1970. I don't know what year that thing came out. 1976, 75. They're very rare, those plates. They made them for all the teams. And it was universal yesterday how everybody wishes the Broncos would go back to those uniforms. Now, what they do represent is 0-4 in the Super Bowl, and that's why they changed. But they looked heavenly yesterday against the Cowboys. Just beautiful. And they're going to go back to the slop. By the way, this shows you where the NFL is and how they have no grasp. You had last night's game, the Sunday night game against the dominant team of the 60s, against the dominant team of the 70s, Packers, Steelers, two of the most iconic uniforms in the NFL, and they're both wearing the most idiotic uniforms they could wear. I don't know what Pittsburgh had on. It was a joke. Nike designed that, and the NFL approved it. And the NFL approved that. So you didn't even look like a Steelers-Packers game. What's up with the white uniforms? The white is just they just keep doing it. Tina says, I'm ready for college basketball. I can't stand to watch the NBA. Yeah, I have zero interest. And especially in lieu of what we found out, I have zero interest in that league. There's nothing about that league that's enticing to watch. What's up with the Pittsburgh prison uniform? I don't know, Opal. They were immediately paying before the game, and everybody's ripping them. I just looked on X. Everybody's just like, what in the world are we doing? This is where we are. And people think that that's clever. People think that that's going to be good marketing. Instead of wearing the Packers, Steelers uniforms, you'd think the NFL would want that showing up on its product instead of whatever that was last night. And Goodell just – he's such a terrible, terrible commissioner. Well, he's a good commissioner because he makes money. Blacksburg wore black jerseys? Did they really? Why? Yeah, Miami's uniforms were terrible too. I did see those. Now, I get the vibe behind them. They were military appreciation, and I support anything that's, promoting or supporting the military and all of our folks who are serving the country. But yeah, they're bad. They just look for a reason to have terrible uniforms now. But last night you stripped the identity away of the Packers and Steelers with those uniforms. Especially Pittsburgh. What are we doing? Matthew says Miami's were the worst since Florida's gator skin jerseys. Yeah, this is all Nike, by the way, behind all this. I think you just have a bunch of 20-year-old somethings in there, and they say that this is cool, man. And it's not. It's not. So Blacksburg wore black uniforms against Christiansburg. Why? Blue and gold, right? Royal blue and gold. Let's just wear a black uniform. Black for the sake of black. Why not? Canes look like lizards, Boris says. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Oh, they wore the blue helmets. Yeah, because they had to wear the blue helmets because you only get one helmet in high school. Wayne says that the Florida Gator, the snakeskin uniforms and the Hokie Stone uniforms, which were just, would be straight fire. Paul says, what's the NBA? I haven't watched since Georgia's last championship. Well, look at the difference, though. And, he is the greatest of all time. But I still believe that Michael Jordan sat out because of what was being discovered during an investigation, because he gambled ferociously. He was such a competitor. He gambled during card games. He gambled when he played golf. He gambled simple things like walking through a doorway. I mean, he would gamble. He was obsessed with it. Much like Pete Rose, I don't think he ever gambled against himself, but I believe that David Stern, who was the commissioner at the time, knew that, okay, here is the holy entity of sports. Think about it. Now, you think of how big the NBA was, that Michael Jordan was the biggest thing in all of sports, not just the NBA. But I think it's safe to assume that he sat out and there was an investigation because they had to get the heat off. They had to do something. It just feels like that still. Now, they never actually tied anything into it, but it makes me wonder. Yeah, it was something like that in the Jordan and that great documentary. Yeah, they gambled about just throwing money in a corner. It's just any little thing, throwing coins into shoes. He was obsessed with it. So I'm sure there was probably something going on, betting on himself. He would never, anybody watched him play, you would never. But now this other thing is going to end up involving, I think, lots of people. It's not going to go away. And there's nothing that the networks can do to hide it. I mean, it's not going to go away in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah. Made the security guard throwing quarters. Yeah, that was right. That's it. Yeah, so Louisville comes in. I mean, they're playing well, but we don't know what that means for them long term, coming into Blacksburg. Tech can just let it all hang out and play hard. And now that they've discovered a running game, and maybe they can hang in there and do some good things. Who knows? We'll see. But been impressed with the effort. And when you can run the ball like that, man, it cures a lot of ills, even some very questionable whistles, flags. I remember I stood up when they called the roughing the passer, the one that was so bad. I just said, what's the point of watching anymore? Like, how is it defended anymore? How can you watch this? Like I say, don't come at me with any more of this conspiracy theory talk. Don't try to tell me that we know now there's been something going on for a long time in the NBA. We can assume by watching NFL games and this study that came out from UTEP about the Chiefs games. Read that study since Patrick Mahomes got there with Andy Reid. This stuff's happening, folks. You can deny it. You can bury your head in the sand. There's a lot of people that are getting really rich off of it. It now explains a lot of things as to why the leagues work so hard to protect officials. They might be in on it more than anyone. As a matter of fact, I would say the one group of people that aren't in on it are coaches. I don't think coaches are in on it whatsoever. Yeah, that's what I was saying, Wayne. That call, and there's been a lot of terrible ones. That was one of the top one or two worst roughing the passer calls that's ever been made. Ever. Just so then you're sitting there and you're just like, what's the point of watching? What's the point anymore? And all these articles are coming out too now from all these national sources that are on X about what did all these leagues expect? What was everyone expecting? College sports, the pro leagues, getting in bed with the casinos, the gambling apps. What did you think was going to happen with everything in professional sports? Now, the other question is, why are these multimillionaires who've got more money? And Charles Barkley asked this question, why? Their lifestyle is set for the rest of their lives if they don't play another game, and many of them probably won't once all this comes out. Why are they even doing this? How much more extra money could you be making? The one that really is shaking me is that brief 15 to 20 second clip of Kevin Durant, and there's a guy standing there who's looking at him stone-faced in the stands, and Durant knows exactly where he is, and the guy says something to his phone, points at his phone, he starts nodding, and he points at his hat. He's wearing the opposing team's hat. And then KD makes a gesture like, man, that made the rounds. If you haven't seen it, you need to look it up. That was what I think what we saw there was point fixing in progress, right? Or maybe even game result fixing. Who knows? Who knows how deep it will go? How does Adam Silver still have a job? How do these ADs still have a job? How does Scott Woodward still have a job? We've asked that question about Whit Babcock, right? Two failed football hires. Where's the accountability of the people that's getting paid millions and millions of dollars to hire coaches, football coaches? And now Scott Woodward, his last two hires is $130 million that those schools combined are going to owe. Are you doing your job as the AD? Did Whit Babcock do his job? Folks, you tell me. Did he? He's keeping his job. Did he do his job? Failing football twice? And putting it now so Virginia Tech is squarely staring in the face at getting involved in one of the busiest scrambles to find head coaches the nation has seen maybe ever before all's said and done. Joseph says, could the next NBA game that's going to be fixed, please let me know. I need some cash. That's true. They didn't figure out they could run it until the second half. Yeah, They were blowing them off the ball in the second quarter, Tech, against Cal. But then they started to realize, wait a minute, they're not playing off blocks, and it was pretty easy, yeah. And they never adjusted to Kyron Drones just keeping the ball. They never made any kind of adjustment. Never rolled the defensive line cover. They didn't do anything. They just kind of reacted and then tried to tackle as that game wore on. But, yeah, 357 yards, you're usually going to win that football game when you run it that well. Yeah, very impressive, very impressive. So kudos again to Philip Montgomery, and kudos to those players. They have done it the right way. They've done it the right way. You're going to see a lot of teams that are going to quit, going to pack it up the rest of the season. That's what I'm curious about. I'm going to be honest, I haven't watched Wisconsin football at all. But do they just pack up and go? Does Florida State pack it up? Tech might be able to steal a win down there. You never know. Yeah, Gosnell caught what? Didn't he catch one ball? I saw him catch one ball, maybe in an overtime, and that's what Phil Elmassian's talked about. He doesn't understand why Tech doesn't use the tight end. And I think he's going to be right. You watch. Gosnell's going to be drafted 5th, 6th round, 7th round. He's going to end up having a long career in the NFL. Troy says Woodward could hire Jimbo Fisher at LSU since he's already paying him. Yeah, just say, hey, come on here. I'm already paying you anyway, right? So just come work for me. Jimbo's probably going to get a job. Think about that. Now, he's out saying all the right things. He's even saying, look, you don't have to pay me much. I got enough money. That's how badly he wants to be a coach again. Somebody's going to listen to that. Somebody's going to listen to that. I never thought it'd be the case, but I think Jimbo is going to be on the sideline next year. I think Nick Saban to LSU is going to end up picking up more momentum than we think. Right? Because I think that's the one job. He'll talk to some people there. Now, who will he talk to? Because Scott Woodward, I'm sure, doesn't have a lot of respect from a guy like Nick Saban. I don't know what their personal relationship is. But Nick Saban will talk to the people who are really running that program, the people who said, no, you're going to fire Brian Kelly. And if you read that article I mentioned by Ross Dellinger, it's outstanding in Yahoo, about he was around it. He heard it all. He was up there. He anticipated something going on and how all that transpired and how the game, they weren't really paying attention. They realized Texas A&M was just crushing them in the second half. So they were already making calls. They were organizing dollars. They were looking at the contract. This is how this works at a place like LSU. It's bizarre. I'm not surprised, though. But they actually had the contract and the buyout numbers, and they negotiated all day yesterday with Kelly's people, because he's saying he wants to coach again, which would reduce the buyout as well. So I don't know what they're going to come up with. We'll see. But I think all this helps Shane Beamer. Because I think probably Virginia Tech, South Carolina fall around the same rung of attractiveness for these job openings. I don't know where you rank them. Now, people are asking me on the professional door text line. I don't know where Tech would sit right now. They're falling further and further down as more of these jobs in the SEC come open. But they just still need to stay the course. I don't think they should knock them off their game and what they're doing. I think they've had a plan. Now, does it change the thinking of some people they've talked to? I think it would have to. Now, Auburn got a win. That was a big keep an eye on that one. So no movement's going to happen there with Hugh Freeze. Because the two jobs that James Franklin's been tied to the most are Virginia Tech and Auburn if it came open. Now, Auburn's not open, so This Urban Meyer coach again. Never say never, I guess, Paul, at this point. Might there be some school? I don't think it'll be a major school that would take him back. Sure. Right? Chesney to Virginia Tech would be the equivalent of getting Tootin out of the portal. Already good, but now have access to Power 4 facilities and funding. Correct. Yeah. And there were a lot of people asking me, and I would say, no. We're saying, what about Brian Kelly in Blacksburg? No. He would come at a halftime of a men's basketball game, and he'd be trying to have a Southwest Virginia accent. No. The big name is not equivalent to success. Now, granted, he won a lot of games. He had a good record. That's why I said, is it just unrealistic expectations? What is it about these jobs, I don't know. But, yeah, the win against Arkansas, all of a sudden you're going to hear things quiet down around Auburn, depending on how they finish the season. Maybe Hugh Freeze keeps his job. And I believe that benefits Virginia Tech greatly if James Franklin is indeed their guy, as I predicted a couple weeks ago. We'll see. Trying to think about Wayne's point. Yeah, Wayne, you're right. He says Tech has a better chance to succeed because of the SEC, so a coach has to think about Brian Kelly. The only thing about it, these coaches know each other so well, and there's so much of a network, just like there is in college basketball. These coaches know who's a fit somewhere and who's not. And I don't know if anybody ever thought Brian Kelly was a fit at LSU. I mean, he had the job of all jobs right at Notre Dame. So, no, for those of you that I asked, no, I think that's a resounding no. It's the same hesitation I have about James Franklin. But he looks relatively calm in terms of the ego as compared to a guy like Brian Kelly. My goodness, that guy. And they called him, by the way, they every time you see it, right? Remember when Herm Edwards got fired, Arizona State, the AD and the chancellor met him coming off the field, and fired him off the field or on the field. Well, Brian Kelly didn't get off the field before the AD and associate AD had a conversation with him, and I guess he probably knew then. Well, again, thanks everybody for understanding about the live chat not happening. Again, we got the call. My fiance losing her mom Saturday morning, so we had to just, we've been dealing with all of those things. So we didn't get to do the chat. And thank you so much for all the great notes. It means a lot. I saw what everybody put on the Facebook page. I got tons of messages from everybody on the text line, and I really appreciate it. So again, we'll be having to fly to Louisiana, so there won't be a Friday show, and probably not a Monday show either. But we'll get you updated on that as we roll along here. Wayne says Kelly's a hard no. Yes. I don't know. I think they're going to go after Nick Saban. I don't know if it's realistic, but I guarantee there's going to be a call made. Yeah, I do. I think LSU is going to make a play for Nick Saban. Now, will it be successful? Probably not, but why not? All right, Phil Elmassian coming up a little bit later on, and Todd Grantham will join us as well. We'll get an update. We'll find out. See what Todd thinks about some of these things. You want to sound the program? There you go. FX off.
Good morning, sir. I just, first of all, want to give you and your fiance, your awesome fiance, My thoughts and prayers and condolences. And sorry.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that, brother. Means a lot. Means a lot.
And definitely would be praying for you all, the whole family.
It's a good distraction hanging out with you and everybody in chat. It's a nice therapy. Wow, what a weekend, huh? Let's go back to Friday, I guess, huh?
Now, before I forget, I have to give you a disclaimer. I'm recovering from NASCAR weekend because I did some early.
You were in Martinsville, right?
We were in Martinsville. Did some early morning Friday lives at 6 a.m. And a funny story, real quick. So upstairs in the top area in turns 1 and 2 on the back end. And it's funny, and it never fails. It didn't feel that bad out there in the mornings, upper 30s. But when that sun rises right around 7, the temperature plummets. And I don't know, I guess we need to figure out from a scientist or whatever. The temperature dropped to like 28 degrees, 29 degrees. It did, but it didn't warm back up. But it's just one of those weird things. And in NASCAR, I mean, first of all, it was a great weekend. I love when we cover Martinsville.
Yeah, it's a good place.
And I recommend it to everybody. But, yeah, William Byron getting the win. I mean, Byron led 304 laps. Ryan Blaney was going for his 3rd straight fall race win. And it came down to when are you in? And Byron did that. And then you also had Kyle Larson get into the playoffs. So the championship 4 in Phoenix will consist of Chesterfield native Denny Hamlin, as well as Chase Briscoe and William Byron, who has Liberty all over his car, which is, they did all that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Kyle Larson. Now, what's interesting, excuse me, Team Penske, they've won the last 3 Cup Series titles. I mean, you got Joey Logano won 2 of the last 3, and in between you had a Ryan Blaney. And Team Penske does so well at Phoenix, and it was just so for them to get shut out, we won't have a Team Penske car racing in Phoenix. So yes, 2 from Hendrick Motorsports, 2 from Joe Gibbs Racing, and Denny Hamlin going for the elusive championship. 3 of the 4 drivers never won a championship. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next week in Phoenix. But yeah, when you see racing in Martinsville, I mean, it is like banging. Half-mile track, oldest track on the circuit. So big time racing, and it was fun. And of course, Ryan Boy and Grant Cole was out there helping me out. But had a good time out there covering the races. And now, until March, as they say.
Until March. Cold Friday night at Lane Stadium too as the game wore on, but it was warm on the field. Tech ran the ball and gutted out a big win, double overtime win against Cal.
Yeah, they jumped out to that 10-0 lead, Rick, and then all of a sudden Cal put 20 straight on the board, and I'm sure everybody's thinking, oh, here we go again. But the Hokies showed up and played well. Some questionable calls, which I'm sure you've been talking about that, very questionable. But in the end, the Hokies found a way. And now, I mean, obviously you start the optimism again. But, yeah, they have won the close ones. I mean, the one-score games, and, they get it done. Kyron Jones, had his moments, played pretty well in the ball game for the most part. Not a lot of passing yards, but he ran the ball, pretty strongly. So it's just interesting to see how the rest of that plays out. But great job by Virginia Tech getting the win. And, again, one thing about Virginia Tech fans, and I'll give them credit, even though this is a tough season, those fans still showed up.
I know.
And Virginia Tech fans are probably some of the most faithful fans in college athletics. They show up, they showed out, they did everything they had to do, and that's got to be inspiring. So whoever the new coach they get in there, they're already going to get, a great fan base. And like most teams, if they're having a season that Virginia Tech's having, those fans aren't showing up, but they still show up.
They're gone. Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%, man. I agree, yeah. Well, 3-5, Phil Montgomery deserves a lot of credit. They've played hard in every game. He gets pretty emotional. It's amazing the job he's done. I know he's probably not going to be considered for the job going forward, but, man, you can't say enough about how he's turned that program into a focus group each and every week.
The thing is, Rick, I mean, they're playing hard, and that's the thing.
I know.
It could have gone either way. I mean, players say, hey, I know these coaches aren't going to be here. They're not going to be there. So why should I even care? But what they've done is really come out there and they have played hard for Coach Montgomery or Monty as they call him.
Yeah,
It's just so exciting to see that, and it gives you some optimism. Now, again, you're 3-5, so we're 2/3 of the season's already gone. So now you're looking at you have 4 games remaining. You got Louisville, if I remember right, the order is Louisville. Then Virginia Tech gets a bye week. Then they get Florida State. I want to say Duke and Virginia, if that sounds right. I'm just going off memory. I might be wrong on that. I can't think of the third, but they have that schedule, and it's a game that the Florida State game doesn't seem as daunting as it did earlier.
No, not at all.
But you gotta find 3 more wins to become bowl eligible, and that's not going to be easy, especially the way Virginia's played. And speaking of Virginia, 3 overtime wins, Rick.
I mean,
there's people don't get 3 overtime wins in their career, and they've just found a way. They found a way, and Tony Elliott has just really found a way, and now they're in the mix. They could be down there in Charlotte playing for an ACC title.
They could. Georgia Tech, I think, continues to separate itself. Style points haven't been great at UVA, but hey, they're still winning. And when you win that many close games, it says a lot about the coaching staff's character and that team's character to be able to hang in. They won by half a yard. A great tackle there for the 2-point conversion.
They needed a yard, and they cut it down to half a yard. And the thing is, I mean, I don't know if Chandler Morris is fully healthy. Just doesn't seem like he is, but I mean, he's still making plays. He's gutting it out. But, that's the thing. I mean, now there's an expectation. When you start winning and you're winning the way they've had, that means there's no game that you feel like you can't win. And that's really what's been big for Virginia. I mean, you're 7-1. I mean, this team, they're 2/3 of the way in. Who's to say they can't go 10-2 maybe? Now, the thing that's going to be tough next week flying on now, of course, California just flew here. It almost would have made sense for them to just stay here the whole week and Virginia host Cal, but they don't do that. But now you got to fly out on the West Coast, and we've seen there's been some weird things happen from teams that have flown out west. And, of course, Virginia will play Cal and out there, and I don't know if they have a time yet on that game yet, but that's going to be a tough game. And then, they got Wake Forest, which isn't going to be an easy one. Wake Forest playing pretty well. And then they got Duke's playing well, and then, the Commonwealth Clash game. So right now, I mean, Virginia is in good shape, but if they could get past Cal, now you got some interest. That Cal game was so key because the thing is you're undefeated. And if you went out and Georgia Tech looks like they'll probably win out. So that could be your 2 teams for the AC Championship. If Virginia or Georgia Tech were to stumble, the problem is now they're going to be lumped down in there with all those teams. There are a bunch of teams with 1 loss right behind, I think, SMU. Louisville's got a loss. You got Miami with a loss. So you got a bunch of teams now because and the tiebreakers are so crazy because not everybody plays everybody. So you got to figure that out. But the thing is, they got to have the motto of the Raiders: just win, baby.
Yeah,
just like that.
Right.
I'm sorry, I know you're a Broncos fan. I probably shouldn't say just win, baby. But yeah, that's going to be pretty hard. But again, this is a battle-tested team, and I don't think anything phases the Cavaliers. So they'll get that going, but it'll be interesting. And again, it's going to be fun times. It's fun times up in Charlottesville right now.
It is. Jermaine Ferrell joining us on the program. We're breaking down the big wins by Tech and UVA. Final third of the season coming up, and we'll see how it all plays out. Another major school with another head coaching vacancy. Ryan Kelly out. He's owed $54 million. We'll see what the buyout is. I saw where it's I saw the total. I can't remember what it was. Already it's been committed to buyouts from these coaches. I don't understand the business of college football anymore. I never have, but now I really don't, to see numbers like that.
Yeah, you're in college athletics, so I mean,
no idea. No idea what's going
that's
on.
A lot of money, but it's again. I mean, I think Kelly was 34-14 or something like that.
Yeah.
So
3 ranked Telluses this year too.
We talk about this. I mean, it's one of those. Be careful what you wish for. You might get it.
Yeah.
And Brian Kelly. I mean, is he a little prickly? Yeah. I mean, he's not.
Oh yeah.
He's not really. He doesn't give the vibe of warm and fuzzy. But coaches are coaches. They do that. But I'm sure. And the thing with coaches, I think what you see in front of the camera, it might be completely different than what you see behind the scenes. Because there are coaches, Rick, that are they have that thing, but then you get them maybe a one-on-one or by themselves, and they're a whole different. They're not like that. I mean, there's like a reputation with Justin Fuente that people just, he wasn't a user-friendly, warm and fuzzy guy. But, I had one-on-one conversations with Justin Fuente, and he was pretty funny and all that. So it just depends on the circumstance, depends on, who you're talking with one-on-one. There's some people that are very engaging, but it's a flip side, too. There are people that when you see them in the public eye, like in front of the camera, or, they're very engaging and all that, but then they become very introverted. I'll give you a prime example. Sherman Hemsley, who played George Jefferson on the Jefferson.
Yes. Genius.
I mean, you see his personality, and he had that character. You would think that would be him, but everybody said behind the scenes he was very quiet, very shy, and very reserved. So it's almost like an alter ego. So it's almost like, okay, is this person on 10 the whole time? And I guess I'm pretty much on 10 all the time myself, I guess, more times than not. But, yeah. But there, that's the thing. I mean, you get these opportunities, and I think, and by the way, I mean, you got 2 great guests coming up. Todd Grantham, who is awesome, and Phil Elmassian, Coach Elmo. So you got 2 big time coaches. So,
it'll be fun.
I heard Coach Elmassian say this. He said that you don't want to win the press conference.
That's right.
He says that a lot. I hear him say that a lot, and that's true. Do you want to win the press conference? No, you don't want to win the press. I would rather you win on the field, because the press conference doesn't. I mean, yeah, it's for fans and it's for everybody to see that. But the key is when you're looking for a coach. First of all, in my opinion, they got a coach. I need to see a coach that can coach the troops. Can organize, can be someone because you almost have to be a CEO when you're a head coach. You have to run the program a certain way. The coach, and really the thing is, and I'm sure Coach Grantham and Coach Elmassian could tell you this too. Everybody in the whole organization's got to buy into the vision of the coach. So if the coach comes in and says, like, he's talking to the committee, in this case, it's the committee, he or she has to say, this is my vision, this is what we've done, and here is proof that to show you what I have done as a coach. So then after that, then the staff's got to buy in, and everyone in that building's got to buy in, and especially the players. So everybody's got to use a PJ Fleck term, got to row the boat the same way.
Yeah, got to row the boat in the same direction.
That's the thing. I mean, there is a roadmap to this. And one thing is, again, I'm stealing from Coach Elmassian because I think he does a great job. Shame on me, but I'm going to steal it. He said something, too, about, there has to be a history or a pattern of winning, or are they the type of coaches that have left everything better than they found it? So that's another big thing right there, Rick. I mean, you want someone that is a proven winner, and it doesn't really matter what level it is. I mean, now the thing is, with all these openings at the Power 4 level, I mean, the pool shrinks. But let's face facts. LSU is high on the list. Florida's high on the list. Penn State's high on the list. So you're going to have some schools that before we had all these firings, I mean, Virginia Tech was high on the list. And I'm not saying Virginia Tech's not going to get a great coach. They will. But I think overall there's a situation where, okay, these are the jobs. And, the top tier candidates, they want those jobs, And I consider Virginia Tech a big time job, But here's the question for you. You know, do you want to go take a job in the SEC because you know what the expectations are in the SEC?
I know.
And certain programs are like, hey, we want to win a natty. You know, we want the national championship. Or you come to Virginia Tech. Well, the expectation probably is, hey, we want to win. We want to have a consistent winner. And if we are in the position to win a natty, we can win it. But, you know, and again, I'm stealing from Phil Elmassian, so I'll give him credit. I think Phil Elmassian should get credit for our conversation. But he said, win the conference. I mean, let's start by trying to win the conference. So I agree. You know, it's great having Coach Elmassian there. But, yeah, you want to have objectives. And I think, you know, if you want to win a national championship, catch lightning in the ball like Tech did in the 1999 season where everything lined up perfectly. They were in position to win a national title. I mean, you want to be in the conversation every now and then, but you want to build your program and be consistent and have success and win. And that's really the big thing. So we'll see how that happens.
Yeah, we will, man. It's going to be absolutely crazy. And I know WFXR will be covering anything that might happen locally. And, of course, with coaching changes and everything else going on, man. And you and I will be connecting later in the week for Fourth and Goal. We're down to next to last week of the regular season coming up this week. Hard to believe.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, I've looked at some of the points. And to use an example, I mean, it's getting close in some of these matchups for teams to try to get in. Like case in point, I know we're getting a little early on it, but you know, right now Blacksburg, you know, they're in position to make the playoffs. They're in the 8-hole, but it's tight between them and Salem. Like Salem is like nipping on their heels, so it's going to be close to do that. And then obviously you have that, and then you look at Region 5C. I mean, William Fleming was 7th. They've zoomed up to 4th in the region.
Wow.
PH, and barring anything crazy, I mean, obviously they got 2 games coming up, you know, so we'll see how that goes. I mean, they got Pulaski County, and then after that they have Blacksburg, so they will play 2 games in the New River Valley, you know, the next couple of weeks. They went out, they'll be the top seed in the region, and, you know, all the Richmond area teams got to come to Roanoke. So we'll see how that goes. And by the way, real quick, thanks for blowing out my Cowboys the way you did. I mean, that was a recipe. And I tell you what, that was a classic look. I love that. Now, here's the thing, Rick. They said they tweaked the Denver logo, the D with the Bronco.
Yeah, they didn't go to the detailed look. Yeah, they left out some of the details of the mid-'70s and the early mid-'70s look. Yeah, because it's modern football. They can't do anything, honestly. Yeah. But, yeah.
And then I don't know what I saw with Green Bay and Pittsburgh. I don't know.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, you got those 2 teams. I mean, can you go?
Right.
There was an expectation. I was expecting, you know,
the classic unit. Yes.
White uniforms, the green helmet, green pants. Pittsburgh come out the black helmets, the black jerseys, the gold pants.
And what was that?
And it's like, you know what's funny? The Steelers and like the Bears had those stripes and then like a crest or whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like weird. Like I'm watching highlights, right? I'm looking up at those uniforms right now. Like, what the heck?
It was everything that's wrong with the NFL in that game last night, encompassed with those uniforms last night.
You know, and the thing is, I'm not hating on uniforms. I mean, you give it a shot. If you try it, there you go. But I'm more of I guess I'm almost like a get off your lawn type of guy. But I'm a traditionalist. I like traditional uniforms. You know. Like even, you know, like with the Cowboys, I love that white with the you know, silver pants, the silver helmet.
Yeah, you don't.
I'm not into the rush colors because I know with Thursday Night Football they would do the rush color uniforms. I mean, give it a shot, but overall, not a big
epidemic.
Do what you can, but we shall see how it goes, young man. See how it goes.
We will. All right, man. I will talk to you in a couple of days, man. I appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you. And again, my deepest thoughts and prayers and condolences to your family and to your fiance. And, you know, I guess what they say is a lot of times, you know, things happen for a reason, a higher purpose. And, you know, when people go to their reward, there's no more suffering, there's no more pain and nothing that. So and you remember, you cherish all the good times. And
absolutely,
we'll do
absolutely, absolutely. All right, man. I will talk to you on Wednesday. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you, man. It means a lot, man. Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
All right, Jermaine Ferrell. Great stuff from him as always. You can just throw any topic out there, and Jermaine can just go. That's what's great. That's what's great. We want to thank all of our sponsors, Family Fencing, our studio sponsor here in Reiner. Give them a call, 540-200-8294, familyfencingnrv.com. They are terrific. They're going to work through the winter. Give Jason Green a call. Mark Hunley, McClellan Chiropractic Clinic. I've had a few people ask me. Hopefully you're making your appointment. Travis Williams, a professional door went over there, and he swears by it. Go see Mark. He's right off Pepper Ferries Road. He's got all the latest technology. It's that time of year, too, man. It seems like in the wintertime it gets worse and worse, right? Your back or whatever it might be, your body, mine anyway, doesn't do great during this time of year. Pulaski County Sports and Entertainment, the presenting sponsor of this program. Make sure you go by and you check them out. We've talked about what they're doing with this superplex, this multiplex they're building, and will be completed in the spring, and how they are working with all of the different rec departments and communities here in the NRV and beyond, nationally, regionally. Jonathan Sweet. If you ever need a pick-me-up, talk to that guy. All right. I want to thank Charles Lee, Little River Heating and Air, 1095 Radford Street, right here nearby where I live. 540-553-2971. Go see him. Again, had a horrible situation last March. My units got struck by lightning. I'd heard good things about them. I called. They came the next day. They assisted, told me exactly what was going on. We got things worked out with homeowners, and they had my new stuff ordered and here within the next evening. And then the next day after that, they had it all up. Everything was new in the house, outside, not one iota of mess. The attorney Ryan Pry, BDST fan question of the week, 701 West Main Street in Radford, trust and estate planning. I haven't come up with a question yet. I have to think about that. So let me know. If you have one, let me know. National Bank member FDIC, thanks to Larry Ramsey, the president and CEO, the exclusive banking partner here on the program. And they've been my exclusive banking partner for 35 years. And I mentioned Travis Williams, Professional Door Incorporated, residential commercial garage doors, owned and operated 38 years in business. They're now looking for, they need some help. So we're going to get some information about how you can contact them. They've expanded so much. They need some quality people. So if you need a job and you're handy, they are looking for employees. And we're going to talk to Travis, and I'll get some more information from him about exactly what they need and what kind of things they have to offer. So this is big. And I really get excited about helping all of our partners. But, boy, I get really excited when I can help other people maybe find their career job. And I'm telling you, man, if you are handy and you are into being able to have a physical workload and understand how to build things and fix things, you work for a guy like Travis, you're going to be set. That's nice. I want to thank the NRV Super Bowl. 25 years in business. They're going to have boogie bowling from 9 to 11 this Halloween. $40 per lane, 382-5525. And Lawson's Mobile Home Supplies, place to go for manufactured home parts such as windows, doors, and plumbing supplies, plus installation. They're at 300 North Franklin Street in Christiansburg. Give James Lawson a call, 540-381-8011. Thanks to all of our sponsors. You are a major part of how I'm able to do the program here. Tony says Salem ran the same play left and right 95% of the time. Pulaski County never figured it out. How? Right? Let's hope there are people that still care enough about the program up in Dublin to fix the program. Just 5 straight years of losing records in Pulaski County football. Phil Elmassian is going to join us here coming up in just a little bit. Something that hit me just talking to Jermaine. I want to Wake Forest. Let's get into Wake Forest a little bit. Wake Forest, by the way, if you haven't been paying attention, is 5-2. They were picked, I want to say, were they picked dead last in the ACC? I used to have the ACC standings here. Let's see. Is this the ACC standings? No, it's basketball. Never mind. I don't have it anymore. But I'm pretty sure they were either picked dead last or right above Stanford. They're 5-2, and they're likely going to be bowl eligible. And Phil Elmassian, who we'll talk about coming up, we'll talk to him about this. Look how they've gone about hiring coaches. Jim Grobe, nailed it. Dave Clawson, nailed it. They go out and they find Jake Dickert from the Palouse out in Pullman, Washington. They struggled early when he got there. I think he ended up 3 or 4 games over 500. Got the 3 bowl games in 4 seasons. He's a young coach on the ascension. Comes to Wake, gets in the ACC. Of course, Washington State's without a league right now. And, boy, is it paid off. They're 5-2. We saw them here in Blacksburg. They are extremely well coached. He doesn't have the kind of talent that most of the teams in the ACC have. They're at Wake Forest. They have wonderful facilities. Wonderful facilities. It's the smallest, I think, Division I FBS football playing school in terms of enrollment. And Wake Forest is a problem. And I think about people who immediately have shot down when I've told you that Tech's made a couple connections. John Sumrall being the last one, the latest one at Tulane. Ryan Silverfield in Memphis. People immediately, no, they need a name. Got to have a name. Got to have a name. Well, Wake Forest is not worried about name. They're worried about personal fit. Are you a winner? Coach Elmassian's talked about it. Well, this guy turned Washington State back around after Mike Leach left. And now he might be hitting his stride as a college football coach, a young guy. And now he's at Wake Forest. He's locked up for a while. He's building something. They're dedicating themselves to, the NIL. But he's got Wake Forest 5-2. Now, it's going to go to Brent Key, the ACC Coach of the Year, but you got to give this guy a lot of flowers too, right? But you see how they've gotten it right because they've looked at personal fit. They've looked at the body of work. They haven't fallen in love with a bunch of names. And they understand who they are. They have great self-awareness down in Winston-Salem. We're Wake Forest. We love and believe in everything we have. But we understand our level of the playing field that we are at. We have great self-identity, I guess is the best way to say it. Does Virginia Tech have that? I don't know the answer to that. They don't seem to have it right now with the way this has gone about with this committee and with what they announced with Witt. But I'm just saying, I think Wake Forest is an example. Tech is a much bigger, more established, higher expectation program than Wake Forest. So I'm not comparing it on that level. But what I'm saying is Tech could really borrow some of the mindset that they've taken into their coaching hires. And I know it's early. It's in his first year. It's in Dickert's first year. But you watch Wake play. We saw him here in Blacksburg. They are very well coached. They do a lot of really nice things on offense. And it looks like they've gone 3 for their last 3 in football coaching hires at a very crucial time to get it right. Yes, they did, Thunder. And I watched that. I watched because I watched Silverfield on the sideline. How would they bounce back over just a gut-wrenching loss and a loss for him personally? He knows what that loss cost him 2 weeks ago at UAB. He's not just on Tech's list, folks. He's on several teams. We're going to talk to that guy list. So when he lost that game, that brought him down. It brought his attractiveness down to a lot of places, I'm sure. What does he do? He goes out against USF. Coach Golish is another guy, right, that Tech fan is eager to have his squad have Tech talk to. And they bounce right back. That tells me more than the loss to UAB. The way they went about and handled their business. That was impressive. And I got a bunch of messages 2 weeks ago from the people, the anti-Silverfield people. Does Pulaski have Cal's defensive coordinator? Wayne, you saying we need their AD? Huh. If Wake and UVA win this week, we may be living in a world where college game day. No, college game day. By the way, there's a lot of articles about how the only places they go are SEC schools, unless it's inevitable in the Big Ten. And who cares? I don't care. Maybe people still care about college game day. I sure as hell don't. But they've been called out for their SEC bias. Go look at the amount of times they've been out. And since they got in bed with the SEC, look at how many of those games each and every week show up at an SEC campus. Yeah. Pretty clear what's going on. Now, they'll have to when it's Ohio State. Maybe you have to start doing that with Indiana, too. Kurt Cignetti, he is the best. I said this going into the weekend. He is the best college football coach in the country. Matter of fact, I think the Big Ten have the two best coaches in the country, Ryan Day and Kurt Cignetti. Ryan Day at Ohio State is like, what's his record now? Like 85-10? Let me look that up. And this is the guy, just because he struggled against Michigan, people wanted him fired. He came in 70-10. What are they now? 6-0. So he's 76, 77, and 10. Couple natties. Yeah, that's right, Wayne. They'll go to OSU for Kirk. Yeah, just that show. It's unwatchable. I don't know how people sit through that. I really don't. I really don't. I guess you got to be of a certain generation to sit through that. Did Memphis jump back in, Jimmy? Are they back in the top 25? Well, he's got another shot against Tulane. You know what? That's going to be great. You're going to see two guys that I know Tech has talked to. And that's a huge game. Silverfield and Sumrall head-to-head in a couple weeks. Watch that game closely, Tech fan. Absolutely, West. Yeah, follow ACC Huddle. Don't waste your time on the SEC network. That's all that ESPN Game Day is. Yeah, don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. Coach Elmassian scheduled to join us here in just a little bit. The Hokie Coach Bowl. Yeah. Watch them. If Tech's not playing and you want to watch a game, I think you should watch that. I think that's a great game to watch in 2 weeks. To kind of – now, I don't think Tech's going to hire Silverfield, but I think John Sumrall is going to make the final cut. I do. He's going to make the final cut a lot of places. His reputation is pretty high right now. So Memphis back into 22. Okay. All right. That's a good place for them to be. Thanks, everybody, again. I'm getting a lot of messages this morning, people who didn't know what happened with my fiance's mom on Saturday morning. So thank you. And thanks, everybody, for understanding. I was really looking forward to the live chat. I was sitting around, matter of fact, when I got up earlier that morning before we got the news a few hours later, and I was thinking about, okay, we're going to go on at 6. This will be cool. We'll just have a good time. Tech, won their game, so everybody's going to be in a good mood. And I had some tidbits that I don't bring to the show here that I could have just thrown out a little bit, some things I heard. But, life is life, and life presents things that you have to pay attention to and realize where sport falls on the hierarchy of things, as opposed to, where you are now. Todd Grantham at 8:00, by the way. That's right. JMU's tomorrow night, right? Yeah. Texas State. We had Matt Rohn on last week. He was talking about this is a game he's concerned about the travel. They have back-to-back road games. Let's see. Yeah, there's another. Watch JMU play. Let's see how they handle themselves. Not an easy place to play Texas State in their league. So we'll see. We'll see. How does JMU circle the wagons on the road tomorrow night? Somebody's going to get a really good football coach out of James Madison again. Somebody. And unfortunately, for the second time, I don't think it's going to be Virginia Tech. Bob Chesney, what he did at Holy Cross, what he's doing now at JMU. And Matt Rohn, the answer seems pretty simple to me about what Tech should do. And it's likely not going to happen. And like I said, I gave you the example of Wake kind of for a reason. Sometimes the answer is a lot easier than you make it. And it feels like Tech's making this a lot more difficult than it's needed to be now for their second straight hire. I came on, we just started the show back, and that whole search was taking place back in 2020. And we talked about how it didn't make much sense. None of it made much sense. And then they announced Brent Pry, and we said at the time, it's not revisionist history. It's not hindsight. We said this feels strange considering it's the second hire for Whit Babcock after the first one didn't work out. No head coaching experience should be a red flag at a place like Virginia Tech, in my opinion. That won't be a factor in the next hire. It will be a head coach. And, of course, it didn't work, and now here they are, and you have a guy who used to be a head coach, Phil Montgomery, doing just an admirable job, to say the least, with the Hokies. He's been amazing. And who knows, if they are focusing on a guy like James Franklin and they're working behind the scenes and he wants to come here and he's going to have to humble himself a little bit, maybe it ends up being a great hire. I don't know. So we'll see. We shall see. Okay, cool. Coach Elmassian got the invite. Just making sure. He's going to join us here momentarily. There was never a deal to close with Matt Campbell because they didn't get to that point of the conversation, which never made any sense to me. That was another strange development about that search. Because that felt like at the time, as a matter of fact, I remember saying on that show, Matt Campbell or Dave Clawson made more sense to me than anybody else that I'd heard. And then they announced Brent Pry. So here we are. Here we are with the committee going out and making the next hire. And they might get it right. But look at all these other places that are firing coaches, especially in the league that controls it all, the SEC. They didn't get it right. And they hired a lot of big-name coaches. And they're paying a lot of money. And they're going to hire more big-name coaches to replace the big-name coaches they're firing. What this shows you is there are a whole lot of inept people being paid a lot of money to run athletic programs. There are a lot of incapable people that have had jobs for a long time at many of these schools that don't know what they're doing. And it's showing now when you see all these firings and then the buyouts and so forth. Yeah, the not only you're right, Wayne. Not only was Prize hiring always befuddling, but then when he was allowed to bring in inexperienced coordinators on top of it without any kind of supervision, it was just a recipe for what happened. It was is it shocking what happened? So I don't know. But where we are and where we're headed, we'll see. People ask me with all these jobs, I still believe that as long as Bruce Arians and Bud are part of it, I think they're going to find a good football coach. I will, with 100% confidence, say Virginia Tech's going to get a good football coach. They will. They'll get a good football coach. I don't know who it's going to be 100%. But I have guys that I think would be really good. I think John Sumrall would be an absolute home run at Tulane. But do they go that route again? This is where people I think are so tied into the whole. I mean, with Ryan Silverfield, I immediately got put back because it was Memphis again. And, well, this Memphis has nothing to do with Justin Fuente's Memphis. If that makes sense. I don't believe I'm going to get connected with Coach Elmassian today. It doesn't look like we are. Don't know what's going on with Coach. Maybe a connection problem, I'm guessing. Todd Grantham joins us at 8. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Let me resend the invite here. That could be what it is. Sometimes the links are broken. So let me try to send one more time here. Well, I've got 2. Which one did I send it to the first time? Let me send it to this one too. Let me send it to both. Coach, if you're watching, I just sent you the other invite as well. There we go. There we go. Now we got him.
Yeah.
Second time's a charm. What's up?
You know what? I forgot to press the blue box below. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I thought sometimes these links are a little funky, so I just sent another one, and sometimes they break for whatever reason. So it's okay. That's all right. I think that's what happened. So we're good. How are you?
Mechanical bypass.
Correct. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Sorry for the loss.
Well, I appreciate it, Coach. I thought about you a lot this weekend, even after everything had happened here with the family. But I'm watching Wake Forest win that game with that field goal and against SMU, and I'm watching those kids and Coach Dickert, and it's just what you said. You've talked about the lineage of Wake Forest with Grobe, Clawson, and now this guy who looks like he's going to just fit right back into that mold. I mean, you were on it. And why not, if you're Tech, why can't you take that same mentality instead of, I don't know. But anyway.
Well, I'm sure you'd like to think they will. I think between Bruce and Bud, I'd like to think that, the way you're thinking, the way I'm thinking, and my experiences at Virginia Tech, I think I have permission.
Sure.
For the 4 years of the toil that I put into that program, and not that I want to be on the committee and don't care to be on the committee, but I do think the pool at Virginia Tech is bigger than LSU's or Florida's. And it just like players.
Right.
There's only so many 5 stars you're going around. There's only Kurt Signetti's and the Nick Sabans, the Ryan Days. There's not many of those guys around under the circumstances that can handle the situations. But that doesn't mean that the Wake Forest guys, because he's at Wake. No, he's at Wake Forest, but he was at Washington State. There's a body of work. And you know what? The number one, I've always prided myself at the time when I was a good coach, because there was a time that it just went south in the business. Football retired me, Rick. I didn't retire football. Right. We've had enough of you. You're gone. And without no doubt. And I'm not going to digress, but I got to show you this. This is what I'm living for.
There you go. I saw that. Yeah, you're trout fishing.
But excuse me. But I've always, my body of work would be, okay, I don't know how many total years the Wake Forest coach had, for an example, or a coach Chesney's had, but they have enough. Okay, as a head football coach, you sit there. I would want to know the percentages of wins after a loss.
Ooh, a good point. Yeah,
I've always prided myself when I was in my heyday in the business. If we lost to a Texas Tech, and even the following year, I would want to know if they got blown out. And you played them the following year.
Yeah.
How did you do? When you were especially when you were mismatched talent wise.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Were you able to bounce back and pull a win out? And I was always proud of myself that, like in the 93 year, we lost to a Miami team 21-3, bounced back the next week and won. We lost to a BC team that was not, they were a good football team. And I tell people, I had a bad game plan and we weren't executing that very well.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Told Frank I'm going to do everything I can to hold him to 60. And if you want to fire me, I have no problem with it. But we came back and won, and West Virginia, we lost so those are the things that I'm most proud of is, after a goal not achieved that week to bring him back. And that's one thing I would look at. And those guys, the Wake Forest coach and the JMU coach, my bet is the percentages are going to be pretty good in terms of their, winning, handling the adversities. Basically, that's what your profile, one way to dig a profile. It's wins and losses. You are who you are, as Bill Parcells will say, by your record.
Right.
And you are who you are when you're watching on the film. This is who you are. This is your body of work. There's only 7 notes in music, Rick. It's not that hard. And look at all.
Not that complicated. You're right. You're right.
All right. 26 letters in the alphabet. Come on, look at the dictionary. So 100% agree with you.
Well, that's what I was talking about earlier, Coach. Ryan Silverfield, right? They came off an inexplicable loss 2 weeks ago. I mean, how? They were 23-point favorites at UAB, just lost their coach. They lose that game, but yet they come back, home crowd, and they beat a ranked team. And it's just what you're talking about. How do you perform after – and look how they played against USF. So
exactly. Yeah. Those are telling for me, those are, I always try to, you get into the profiles, the inner workings of a coach and their staff, don't forget, it's not a one-man show.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
You're going to be as good as your staff is and bringing in people that, I think Jermaine Ferrell brought out great points of, you're selling your program, but it all starts at the top, but also that staff it makes or break the head football coach, makes or break the program because there's so many, and then the trainer, then the strength coach, on and on. Anybody who puts a hand on your player that can touch your player, they better be on the same page you are. And so those are very important points. I fully 100% concur. And Wake Forest, what did they beat? They beat SMU.
Yeah.
This weekend.
Shut them down defensively and then kick the game-winning field goal. And then they just had a celebration like this one. I mean, the excitement around the program. I mean, he's done a great job. He's done a great job in year one. Great job. So,
no doubt.
Crazy. Bill Elmassian joined us on the program, the 40-plus year veteran of college football coaching. It's just great to tap into his wisdom.
Measured in dog years.
Yeah. Well, let's get into LSU a little bit. Brian Kelly,
sure.
you know that place very well.
Yeah, yes. I think the experience I had gives me a little bit of credibility, but I don't know if anybody really knows that place well enough. They have fired just about every. Here's the thing about LSU. Let me give you a quick story.
Yes, please.
We had just taken over. Nick Saban never gets enough credit for the job he did because it's not even written about the problems that Jerry DiNardo, who's a great coach, great guy. Love Jerry, but the mess the program was in after, not just because of the only three wins, they had, I call it A to Z issues.
Yeah.
Every letter in the alphabet, put a word in front of it that's going to be a negative, and that's the problems. That's what you're left with.
Right.
And the first thing he did was build an academic building. That was the first thing. The academic byproduct of losing is a mess. But the bottom line is he hires Pete Jenkins, and Pete Jenkins had been an assistant coach. He's kind of like the Bud Foster of LSU, been there through Mike Archer. I don't know if he was there with Charlie Mack, but he's like, the guy in the state of Louisiana. He's Mr. LSU. So he brings Pete out of retirement to coach the D-line, and that's for recruiting and to get into New Orleans and recruiting. So I'm sitting there with Pete and, trying to learn about the program. And I said, Pete, you know what? We got to win the border wars here, like Arkansas, Mississippi State. You're in the West. Win the borders war, and everything else will take care of itself.
Sure.
Because you can't, you don't want to lose to Arkansas. You don't want to lose to Mississippi State. And let me tell you, I'll tell you what cost Brian Kelly that job. One of the 5 reasons, it was called Ole Miss. It is a rivalry that the money people in both programs, it's huge. I think it goes back to the Billy Cannon days. But Pete looked at me, he goes, his old son, he goes, boy, let me tell you something. If we lose to Alabama, they'll fire our ass. I went,
and you're like, whoa, yeah.
I'm thinking Alabama, LSU, I'm excited about it. Then I look up. I think I'm accurate on this because this has been 25 years, but they had not beaten Alabama at home since 1969. So I'm going to get fired on a job on a team that they ain't beat since 69. This place is a mess. And it is a mess. They have fired every football coach they have ever had except for 2. Nick Saban, who left, and Bill Arnsparger, who left to become the AD at Florida.
Right.
They fired Charlie Mack, who was the winningest coach in LSU at one time. They fired Mike Archer, who had a couple of 10-win seasons. And then after 2 years, when they fired Jerry DiNardo, who had a 10-win season after 2 years. And then you get into the Les Miles winning the national championship, Ed Orgeron winning the national championship, and now Brian Kelly, which this does not surprise me. Nick, people wonder, how can you get this Northern Yankee to come down to Louisiana to coach? But the same thing was Brian Kelly. The only difference was Brian Kelly was a Northern Yankee with a false accent.
Yeah.
It was not a good marriage. That was not going to work. So, but it's Nick Saban's not going to take that job because LSU is a job where it's not a good job. It's all the bells and whistles will make it a good job. The support, the people in the state and recruiting, Jimbo Fisher may be a guy just because Jimbo Fisher, here's the thing about Jimbo Fisher, people don't understand. He's not a good recruiter. He is a great recruiter. I was with him. He's a bulldog. And let me tell you, he had Baton Rouge area for recruiting, and that's the toughest because, a lot of the kids, even though you're too close to home. And so when you sign Marcus Spears and Michael Clayton, and these are names that if you Google them, these were big time 5-star guys, and he got them in the area. They didn't get away. He is a bulldog in recruiting. If you talk to those players, they'll tell you. So I don't know if I would think his name will be thrown around. It'll be interesting in the direction that they go. Nick Saban will voice, but he's not taking that job. He'll take the Texas job if he takes it.
Yeah. So he would take Texas, you think, if they go.
I think
yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's
going to be interesting.
But LSU is it's like, here's what's going on, Rick. And right now, because this is the byproduct of the NIL, make no mistake about it. The job openings right now, this was just a matter of time, and this is the culmination of NIL money at work. Okay, we're paying the quarterback $1 million. The players are, all this money they're investing in, and the dividends are not being paid out. So let's fire the guy. Okay, that's number one. So now what's happened? Schools are going out with the search firms. There's so much back channel. The schools are not involved talking to coaches yet. They can't be. A lot of them have jobs. So that between the search firms and the agents, that's where the conversation is.
Correct.
And Jimmy Sexton is representing just about all of them. So he'll be a rich man. But that is definitely when you hear about. And the agents will try to release this stuff to get their names
Absolutely.
out. Either to get a raise or a contract extension at their place or to get that job that they actually do want. So all that rumor you're hearing is between search firms and agents, not the universities.
Well, and we're going to hear more because the agents are going to put more of that out there for their clients, Sexton being the main guy, right? We're going to hear more and more and more and more. How much do you think is being controlled with the actual firings at places too? How much? I know the boosters, like that whole thing, Ross Dellinger's article today, Yahoo, is a good read, Coach, because he was up there and hearing how all that unfolded very quickly with, okay, how much money do we need to get? Who do we need to call? We got the contract in hand. We're going to owe him how much? Okay, well, if he's going to take another job, we can negotiate with him tomorrow. He was fired before the Texas A&M game ended.
Without a doubt. Don't forget, Rick, they got the money.
Right.
They have the money. They don't sign guys to these contracts. They just don't. These are business people. These are people with money that have, enough that they get this investment. So with this investment, the conversation is, okay, let's sign them. You're going to be the guy, and they're going to go around and say, look, we at least to get 3/4 of it.
Right.
Okay,
right.
Not maybe all of it. But they've got to have that commitment. The commitment to sign them has got to be the same as the commitment to fire them. The money people, they got to have the same commitment. Because they can't just sit there and go, oh, my God, we don't have the money.
Yeah.
And, they got the money because obviously just look what's going on consistently now. They have the money. Hey, they got the money to give $1 million to an 18-year-old kid.
That's a great point.
Would you give $1 million to an 18? I would. If I had an 18-year-old child, I ain't giving him $1 million.
No, never.
I don't care how talented he is. Ain't coming from me. If I had the money.
Well, it blows me away. I've said for the last 3 weeks we'd have another major opening week by week, and sure enough, it's happened all 3 weeks.
No, you called it. I was kind of surprised at LSU, but I'm not because like I said, the year after Nick won a national championship, LSU, you're not sustaining there. I mean, when you look at Joshua and the Miles, the coaches that have stayed there for quite a while, longer than I think just as long as Nick did. You lose to Ole Miss, let me tell you, they're the money people. It is a huge rivalry, and I think it goes back to the Billy Cannon days.
It does. Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm just telling you that when Nick won the year after Nick won the national championship, Ole Miss beat him. And I don't know if they beat him 2 years in a row, or at least they beat him one time. I know he lost to Ole Miss at least twice. You talk about some peed off alumni and people, that it got intense down there. Just one loss to Ole Miss. It's one of 5 reasons that Brian Kelly got fired. Probably number 5, but it's one of 5.
Well, it's fascinating, and the money is going to keep growing, and the names are going to keep growing. The lists are going to keep growing.
Baby.
All the money. You going fishing this week?
No, I'm done. I'm home. We've been traveling, been to Madison, been up in the mountains. Got my trout fishing in. I usually try to hit the New River, but I'm done probably till next year, the spring. Going to William Mary this weekend.
Oh, good.
William Mary, my alum university.
Yeah. Give us an update on what's going on up there with the tribe. Yeah, I'm heading up there this year with Radford basketball. So there you go.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But and then the cool thing, then Virginia Tech, what a great game that was. Overcame the officiating on both sides. It was so bad. Those guys need to be fired. There's no reprimand, nothing. Fire.
Here's your game check. You're doing a great job. Here's your game check, boys. Yeah.
This one of the reasons that I did this roughing the quarterback and targeting on the quarterbacks. I got to the point in the years later in my coaching, like when I was at Nebraska, Zach Taylor, the head coach at the Bengals, he was our quarterback.
Yeah.
So I walked into the quarterbacks meeting and gave Victoria's Secret catalog and go, here, pick your uniform out.
Like Jack Lambert, right? When you said that all quarterbacks.
You can't touch him. You can't touch these guys anymore. It's just, but hey, I get the safety. I understand the safety. There's some hits I go, oh my God. But the one that they called targeting, it's gotten out of control.
Yeah, it has.
And I'll tell you what, the quarterbacks, they're not happy about it either.
No.
Now the team that got the penalty is, but other than that, in the game, they're not happy about it.
They want to play the game. Right.
Yeah. Let's play the game.
Let's play the game.
Really sad. But I'll tell you, Virginia Tech, they finally ran drones on designed quarterback runs.
You said that 3.5, 4 weeks ago.
I've been saying that on Greg Roberts. If you go back on my shows with Greg Roberts and archive them, I'd like $1 for each time I brought this up.
You nailed it. You nailed it.
Get the ball to Benji. See, I'm like a coach, half fan, and half news guy, radio guy.
Yeah.
It's like this mutt on this mutt, but I'm sitting there screaming, get the ball to Benji, and let the quarterback. This is Secretariat. Ride him to the heartburst.
Yep.
Just ride him. It's the Belmont at Secretariat. He'll leave you in the dirt. That Cal coach left in shock in that game.
Yeah.
He left in shock. Drones shocked him. He found out how good he was. And I don't know why in the past, maybe they're afraid of him getting hurt. Well, they all lost their jobs because of that.
That's true.
And he had 21 rushing attempts.
Yeah.
That's how Virginia Tech has a chance to win the game. And a good quarterback, they give you hope. That's what a good quarterback does. It elevates the team. It elevates everybody on the team. That right. Monday through Friday, you're preparing for a game, and with a quarterback with the ball in his hands or the ball out of his hands as far as throwing the football and the leadership skills, you have hope. That in the fourth quarter, I have a chance to win this football game. And without it, you're not winning. You are not winning.
No.
So they finally used him. They finally utilized him, which was good to see.
Well, Coach, I'm very honored I get to utilize you on this program regularly. And I appreciate you stopping by, man. It means a lot. It's great. Learn something from you every conversation. It's awesome.
I hope you have, because you'd be one of the few.
Untrue.
Oh, no, it's a lot of fun. Appreciate it. You got Todd coming up next.
Yeah, we got Coach Grantham coming up here. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, he'll be employed.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will.
It won't take long. But there's so many jobs open right now, Rick. It's ridiculous. It's crazy.
I know. It's coming too. More coming. All right, Coach, I'm sure you and I will talk during the week.
Appreciate the time. Yeah, a lot of fun. Take care, buddy.
All right, brother. Be good. Stay safe. Phil Elmassian joined us. We want to thank our sponsors, Family Fencing, sponsoring our studio here in Ryder, 540-200-8294. Give them a call. Mark Hundley over at McClellan Chiropractic, right off Peppers Ferry Road, sponsor of our chat room. Man, how good is that, Coach Elmassian? I want to thank Professional Door Incorporated, Residential Commercial Garage Doors. Travis Williams up in Dublin, right across from New River Community College, 38 years in business, and they need some people. So we're going to tell you more about that. I'm going to get with Travis today and find out exactly what he wants to get across here. Exclusive banking partner of this program, National Bank member FDIC, thanks to Larry Ramsey. The attorney Ryan Pride down on West Main Street in Radford, 701 West Main Street. He specializes in trust and estate planning. Got to come up with a question this week. Charles Lee, Little River Heating and Air, 540-553-2971. It's now cold. We're going to be cold going forward. Just get your heat units checked out or get new ones if you need them, right? Don't get them serviced. Give Charles a call. We're presented every day by Pulaski County Sports and Entertainment, the place that I grew up. Presenting sponsor of this program. It means everything. And I appreciate Jonathan Sweet, Tim Miller, and the gang there. Lawson's Mobile Home Supply, 300 Franklin Street in Christiansburg, 381-8011. If you're looking for a new vehicle, go see Brad Harvey. He's helped me on my last three. I mean, I bought my last three cars from Harvey's. So go. He's been dedicated to the community, and they're not ever trying to give you a sales pitch. They're awesome. They're awesome. And the NRV Super Bowl. They've been part of the community for over 25 years, 382-5525. Boogie Bowling coming up for Halloween this weekend. Great stuff, Phil Elmassian, as always. And always great stuff when we're joined by our next guest. There he is, my former teammate, good friend, and now the coach, Todd Grantham. What's going on, TG? How are you?
Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. Good morning. How you doing this morning?
Doing good, man. Good to see you. Doing good to see you. Don't you love Coach Elmo? How much fun is that guy?
Yeah. What was funny is listening to him at the end there. I actually got to watch the end of that Virginia Tech game. Cal was just a guy short. They were basically running the option play, and the guy was coming back on what we call a crunch play. And the guy that had the tight end man-to-man also had the quarterback. Well, that you ain't stopping that play like that. They were a guy short every time. And, Virginia Tech did a good job of realizing they were a guy short, and they just rode it till they, got to win. And that was good to see. But the other thing was, I wasn't going to say anything about it, but like the roughing the passer penalty on Virginia Tech, I'm like,
yeah.
Dude, I mean, where did you get that call from? I'm anyway, but that's actually the first game I'd got to see. Because I usually don't get to watch games and things like that. But, now I'm getting to watch a few games. So I got to watch the second half of it, and it was good to see. Interesting.
Does it drive you crazy as a defensive coordinator when you're watching that play? You're like, why aren't you doing what you need to do?
So the first time I saw it, I was like, all right, that's a problem. And then it came back again. And then if you watch the TV copy of it, the head coach at Cal, who I know, he's a good guy.
Yeah,
he was all over the defensive coordinator, and I knew what the issue was. It's like, hey man, you're a guy short. Like you're -1 on that play, and you better get +1 because you're gonna see it again. So anyway, that was interesting. But it's interesting watching the end of games. I don't get to watch a lot of games, but what's interesting is quote the analytics and everything and people's decisions and stuff like that. Like the South Carolina game was pretty interesting. Like at the end of the game, the score was tied. There's less than, I don't know, it's like 35 seconds, something like that. And the ball's at the 25. And South Carolina made a decision to let the guy score, with the score being tied to get the ball back, which was a little unusual to me because now Alabama's kicker's an excellent kicker. Like I think the guy's like 27 of 27 inside the 40.
Yes.
Yes. It's like a 42-yard field goal. It's also a game winner, and you can also do a max blitz in that situation because they're going to kick it. So that was a little bit interesting to watch how that unfolded and everything. And then the Kentucky one I thought was pretty interesting. Like a lot of people wouldn't have saw that, but like Kentucky was down 22 and chose to go for 2 because the book, we all have this analytics book nowadays, And the book said go for 2. Well, in theory, the book says that because, like, all right, if I get back to, if I go for 2 and make it, now I've got to do is score 2 touchdowns, take the extra point, and, you know, I'm going to win the game. Whereas if you miss it, your chances of getting a 2-point conversion are really 40 to 50%. So in theory, if you miss the first one, you go the second one, percentages, you're going to make that one. So now you're back on track. But my whole thing with that is look, if I'm down 21 in the third quarter and I can tie it up, I got the momentum. So I want to keep playing. And so that part of it's interesting. But the whole analytics thing is pretty interesting. You know, in 23, when I was with New Orleans, we went up to play New England, and they were not very good on offense. And we were winning the game 21-0, and our offense was driving, and they had the ball in that like plus 40 range. So now it gets into, you know, what are you going to do on 4th down? And DA Dennis was, you know, the analytics guy. I don't know if people know this or not, but the analytics guy in the National Football League is on the headset with the coach. I mean, he's there. So like if the head coach says, hey, what's the book say? You know, and so anyway, then DA asked our guy, said, hey, what's the book say? Well, the guy like locked up. He was like, flip it. And I'm like, what the hell you mean flip it? I go, we're winning this game 21-0. They're 0 for 9 on 3rd down. If you kick the field goal, it goes to 24. And now we're up 3 touchdowns with 2 2-point conversions. And I'm like, they're not going to score 3 touchdowns anyway, but if they did, they're not going to get 3 2-point conversions. I'm like, kick the damn field goal. And I mean, but he was kind of like, hey, it's 50-50 and all that. And so anyway, DA ended up kicking the field goal. We went up 24. We won the game 34-0. But the whole analytics thing is interesting just because as soon as you say, well, analytics says, it's like, oh, that's correct.
Oh, I know.
And what's funny about it is, you know, and I even asked our guys in New Orleans, because I got a good relationship with them. I said, hey, I got a question. I said, you know, we evaluate players because we all evaluate players, good players, bad players. You know, what do you think of them? And we obviously evaluate coaches. I said, who evaluates analytics? I mean, to say it's right, because at the end of the day, an analytic is a human algorithm.
Right.
So what's to say that the stuff you put in there is the correct stuff? Like, for example, hey, 4th and 1, go for it. Well, what if your left guard is out of the game and you got your backup in the game? So does it say go for it then? So that whole thing is kind of interesting to me, and just listening to it. So anyway, that's my spill on that. But other than that, man, what's been going on?
Yeah, a lot going on. Well, it's interesting what you say about analytics too, because in college basketball, it's happening even more so. I hear about now. The dedication to analytics, and you're right. Like, who's checking that? It's a great point you're making. Because what's happening on the field may not. Yeah, it may identify the analytic equation, but what's the real presentation of it? I think that's a terrific point that you make. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So anyway,
well, I guess what's going on? Brian Kelly, LSU, latest.
You know what's interesting about, and I heard Phil a little bit there listening, is number one is the value of the quarterback play. There's no doubt about that. I mean, if you look at the teams that are winning and doing well, like, for example, Virginia. Like I saw Virginia play Florida State, and the quarterback played unreal. And, you know, part of their success is because of the quarterback, just like Vandy. You know, so there's no doubt about the quarterback, you know, being a difference maker. And it really makes your whole team better. Matter of fact, when I was at Oklahoma State, the kid that went to UVA, we actually had on campus. And I was like, y'all can give him some of our money on defense because that'll make us better. You know, it's a lot easier to call. It's a lot easier to call. It's a lot easier to call plays when you got a lead than it is when you don't, or you're scoring points. So that part of it, you know. But yeah, you know, the thing that's interesting about Brian Kelly is there's going to be no more get better as you go through the season and make the playoffs, because like I go back to like the and I was thinking about it when I saw it last night, like the 07 Giants. So the Giants won the Super Bowl in 07. Well, they started out 0-2.
Right.
And then they actually were 3-4. And they got in at 10-6, like in the last game of the year. They made the playoffs as a wild card team. And then they got hot. And then all of a sudden, you know, they end up winning the Super Bowl. Well, you know, technically, LSU could go 9-3. I mean, so what my point is the landscape of college football is changing, obviously because of the firings and things like that. But the other thing that's going to change is because of the parity, and that you're paying players, like you're going to have, and also with the conferences wanting to, play more games against each other, which means there's going to be more balance.
Yeah.
Playing more Division I games, you're going to have teams that have 2 to 3 losses at the end of the year that can still make the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? That's going to end up happening as you move forward. And if you just look at the National Football League, I mean, they want everybody 8-8. I mean, the difference between being 7-9 and 10-6 in the National Football League is probably 3 to 4 plays. And that's the reality of it. Well, with the situation like at LSU, they're 5-3, and I understand the disappointment. And hey, that's their prerogative to do what they want to do. But one, they have a good defense. They play good on defense. They haven't had the consistency on offense that you would like right now, but they have a talented quarterback. Nussmeier was actually at Florida. His dad was at Florida when we went to Florida, so I got to meet him a little bit. And he's going to be an NFL prospect. So
right.
My whole point is all right. The issues for this season right now is how do we get more consistency out of our offense? Well, with the decision you made, you're no longer probably going to be winning games or being able to compete for the playoff spots, because kids read social media, whether you want it. I mean, they're going to read social media. They're going to interact with all that. So that's going to affect their performance. So, the ability to get better as the season goes along is going to kind of, not be there anymore because people are making such quick decisions.
Agreed, 100%. And it's Elmassian says, they're paying out the money, but the money's there, right? If the money wasn't there, it's interesting to see how this all comes together. What do you think about from a Virginia Tech perspective, Coach? Did you hear anything else over the weekend?
No, I haven't heard anything. I don't really have any insight on that. I think the biggest thing is when you look at all of this, when I was in pro football, it was always, how do you make the playoffs? Which is really what it's getting down to now in college football.
That's right.
Is how do you make the playoffs? Because, the conference championships aren't really what they meant. Or now it does give you, a home game and all that. But at the end of the day, it's all about making the playoffs. And when we would sit down at the end of the year and say, all right, what are the reasons these teams made the playoffs? You would think, all right, hey, penalties. Well, be honest with you, penalties was not one. I mean, they were like, you had the most penalized team in the playoffs. You had teams that weren't penalized in the playoffs. So my point is the correlation wasn't there. The biggest stat that we always saw, and Phil was hitting on a little bit, was what we call quarterback differential rating. Okay. And basically what that meant is how well your quarterback played. So in other words, if your quarterback played well, he had a high, like he was 95, 100, whatever. Well, then the next part of that, the differential was how poorly did you make the other team's quarterback play? So in other words, let's say he was 65 and your guy was 95. Well, that's 30. That's a 30 difference.
Yeah.
So you're plus 30. Well, all the teams that made the playoffs had the highest point differential at the end of the day. So that just meant our quarterback played better than your quarterback. Now there can be a lot of factors that go into that and everything, but there's no doubt nowadays with the way offenses are, the way the rules are, that becomes a thing. So getting back to the Virginia Tech thing, I don't really have any insight. I think the biggest thing is one, the blueprint to get Virginia Tech back to where, they belong and where they've been from a traditional standpoint. The first thing would be is to me is how are you going to utilize the 100 scholarship limit? Because, the blueprint at Ohio State or LSU is not going to be the same blueprint that Virginia Tech.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And the thing about, for example, the 100 scholarship limit, well, back in the day, it was reduced. You were down to 80. Well, now they've given you an extra 20. Well, to me, a school like Virginia Tech can utilize that to their advantage. To give you an example, if you just took the 100 scholarships and you said, hey, I got 48 on offense, 48 on defense, and 4 special teams guys, that ends up being your 100. Now, you can always find ways to get 101, 102, 103. You can find those ways based upon how your Title IX numbers are and everything. But my point is if you just get down to your 2 deep and you end up, let's say you have your 2 deep, okay? Well, you end up with 28 guys. Well, I've never had more than 28 guys to play with in a given year anyway. I mean, guys have to cross-train and play multiple positions. So therefore, you're really honestly down to 23, 24 guys playing for you this year. So with the addition of the scholarships, to me, a school like Virginia Tech, those other 20 to 25 guys, they become your developmental guys. So then how do you develop those guys at your critical positions? Offensive line, defensive line, quarterback, those kind of things. So I think that's a really big factor for schools that aren't going to be able to financially pay, because everybody says it's not like an NFL model, because in NFL you have a salary cap and this is what you spend. It's really more like a Major League Baseball model. Like, it goes to the highest bidder. Teams are spending $25, $30 million on a team or more, and you're not going to be able to compete with that. So how do you develop players within your system? Well, the one advantage they've given you is they've given you the ability to have more players on your roster. So now I think that's where guys like when I was there, Mike Gentry was one of the most important hires Coach Beamer made, because you develop your toughness. Like last week, I talked about discipline, accountability, and toughness. Well, this from being with Coach Hicks. It doesn't matter what level, high school, college, or National Football League. You develop your team in the off season in the weight room.
Yep.
And you develop them in the weight room and in the summer, and that's where they get the core for their discipline, accountability, and toughness. And that's where the bond really is created. Yep. So now you go back to being able to recruit guys within a 4 to 5 hour radius that Virginia Tech means something to, and you get them in there and develop them. Well, if you end up with 20 guys on your team, and let's say, half of those guys end up contributing, that's 10 extra guys. That's 10 guys you developed for that side of the ball. And I think that ends up being one thing that from a, committee standpoint, that would be important, is your vision to develop a roster, and how are you going to do that? And then I do think the other thing is, like we've been talking about, is your vision to develop a quarterback. Like in the National Football League, it kind of got into, if you studied how they would hire guys, they really hired the head coach was really who could develop the quarterback. It really had nothing to do with leadership or things like that. And that's kind of paying off in a negative way when you look at the Miami Dolphins right now. Basically McDaniel was hired to develop the quarterback, and the other components around being a head coach in their mind wasn't as important. Well, I think those things have kind of come out to be maybe more important than they're realizing and everything. So I think one component of it is how are you going to utilize the 100 scholarship limit? And then, what's your vision for developing players? And then how are you going to develop a quarterback? Because if you just look at the top 10 in the country right now and how they're playing, they all have a quarterback that's playing really well.
Absolutely.
And then if you look at the teams like LSU, for example, that say got fired, well, their quarterbacks aren't playing as consistent as you'd like. And, it really, I don't want to make it that simple, but if you get down to, if you develop players, you have discipline, accountability in your program, and you hire good people, let them do their job, and then you develop a quarterback, then it does make everything within your program better.
No, and then there you go. Now there is a analytic that makes a lot of sense, to be honest with you. And I love the one you brought up a minute ago, Coach, a little while back, that if your quarterback's playing at a 95 and you're holding their quarterback to a 60 or 65, there's an analytic that means a hell of a lot in the outcome of a football game. So that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So like when we looked at it, like, back, it was 12 teams made the playoffs. Well, 11 of the 12 were in the highest positive in the quarterback differential rating. So it was that's why when you look at teams, that's why quarterbacks are taken so early now. You know what I mean? Two reasons quarterbacks are taken early is one, it's hard to find them. And two, if they are any good, you have them on a rookie contract. For example, when Patrick Mahomes was really good with Kansas City, they had all these players around him and they were pretty dominant. Well, when he got through his rookie contract, they had to pay him. So they had to let some of those guys go around him. And that's why you've had a little bit of inconsistency because you haven't been able to pay the other players. Now, translating that to what that means in college is basically, that doesn't mean that you have to hire a guy that can just develop quarterbacks. I think that the head coach obviously needs to be the leader of the program. He's the face of the program. He's the one that has to have the discipline, accountability, and toughness within the program. But you have to have a vision for how you're going to develop that position because it affects your whole program. I mean, like I said, you play a lot better defense when you're up, when you're winning. Because what happens is the play caller on the other side knows, like, if I'm down by 7 and I ran the ball and I got a 2-yard run, my chances of running the ball again aren't probably very good. So I'm going to throw the ball. So if I know you're going to throw the ball, then I have a chance to play one aspect of the game, which is, pass defense. So there's no doubt that position is really critical in what you're doing and how you want to go. And like I said, you can just look at the teams right now that are playing well, look how their quarterbacks are playing, and then look at the teams that have made some changes and how well did their quarterbacks play. The other thing that I think is going to happen, you're going to see the drop-offs a little bit, like with the portal nowadays, and this will go back to being firm with your commitment to your program. Is Florida State just 2 years ago was undefeated, and they went to the portal. They made a bad choice at quarterback for who they were going to take, and all of a sudden they went down. Well, if you look at Colorado right now, the same thing's happening. And I think when you live in the portal world, yeah, you're going to have some success, and you're going to have to get some players from the portal. There's no doubt about it. I mean, that's just the way it is now. But if you can develop those guys within your program, then those guys are going to have the core. They're going to have your core, meaning if they're there for 2 years and they're hearing you talk about discipline, accountability, and toughness, they're within the program, they're lifting, they know your structure, those guys end up being the backbone of your team. And those guys are going to help give you the consistency you need, because what you're seeing with, for example, Florida State and Colorado is the lack of consistency in their play relative to the way they played the year before, for example, with Colorado, and 2 years before with Florida State.
Well, I've never seen halftime stats like that Colorado-Utah game that they showed where they were minus 18. They were down 43-0. I mean, I was just sitting there like, whoa. I mean, that's just yeah, you're right. They haven't recruited very. I mean, that whole thing looks like it's finally starting to come to reality a little quickly for Coach Prime, as he likes to be called.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it just goes back to your blueprint for how you want to develop your team. And like for example, you're going to have to pay certain positions. For example, offensively, you're going to have to pay the quarterback. So that would be a position for example, like a school like Virginia Tech. You can compete with anybody in the country for that position. Okay. Well, yeah. If you compete at that position, you're going to have to develop other positions. Like if you're at Ohio State, you may pay that guy the top dollar. Well, you can still go out and pay the safety. You can still go out and pay the corner. You can go out and pay the other positions at that spot. Well, that's just the way that's their blueprint. Well, at a school like Virginia Tech, you could go out and have your dollars, and you can compete for any quarterback in the country and match dollar for dollar. But the key is what's your vision for how you're going to develop the guy, how you're going to utilize the guy, and what the tools are going to be around him. So, that becomes an important part. So you're going to have that. And then when you start saying, offensively, you're going to have to pay the quarterback. Obviously, you got to pay guys protecting. And more so, this is where, to me, it gets into, I'm only going to pay for tackles, meaning not to say that guards aren't important. I mean, I played guard, I played center, and not to say those positions aren't important, but, when you're playing offensive tackle, you're one-on-one on an edge rusher, and you got to protect that guy. So that becomes a premium price. That's why in the National Football League, those guys are taken in the first round because they protect your franchise. They protect your quarterback.
Right.
And the other guys inside are guys that, hey, we're a mistake. New Orleans Saints took a kid, Pennington, as a tackle, and he can't block the edge. Tough, hard-nosed guy. Well, they just moved him to guard. So how do you I think that's the biggest thing is how do you make value of your mistakes? Because we're never going to all bat 100. No. I mean, it's just not going to happen. Just like, for example, with the Patriots, like they took Teddy Bruschi, okay, when Bill was in New England, they took Teddy Bruschi, who ended up being one of the best inside linebackers to play. Well, he actually had, I think, 25 sacks at Arizona in what they called that desert defense, and he was actually drafted as an outside backer. He was actually drafted as an edge rusher, and he was a mistake. He didn't have the length or the burst or the ability to bend to be an NFL style guy. So, okay, he's not going to be that. So how do you utilize the mistake and create value for your team? And they moved him to inside backer, and to the guy's credit, he busted his tail. He had instincts, those kind of things. And he became a pretty dynamic player for them. So I think that gets into, the hiring of your staff and having guys that you got to be flexible on defense. For example, you got to have the ability that you can be flexible. One year you might be 3 down, the next year you might be 4 down. In a perfect world, you'd like to be balanced, because I think this day and age with spread offenses, you got to give different fronts. But you're gonna have to play to what your players do best and everything. So getting back to the pain of the players, obviously on offense, you got to pay the quarterback, they got to protect him, and then you got to pay the outside receivers. The reason I say that is defensively, we play a lot of quarters, we play a lot of middle field closed defense, things like that. Well, when you do that, your guys outside are going to be one-on-one. So when you get the bigger guys outside, you can throw the 50-50 balls to. It's an access, or it's a confidence for the quarterback to know I have this guy one-on-one and I can throw and make plays with that guy. So offensively, those are the kind of things you got to get. And then defensively, it all starts up front. You got to have guys that you got to have size inside. You have the ability to stop the run, from a split safety look to where you're maybe in a little bit lighter box. So you can help cover those guys outside, like I'm talking about. Then you got to have edge rushers. You got to have guys that can rush the edge. And then the last thing you got to have guys outside that can cover. So you got to be able to cover those guys. So when you start looking at it from a blueprint, defensively, you got to have size inside. Like when I went to Mississippi State, we had Jeffrey Simmons inside. I mean, and I'm like, all right, so this is going to be pretty easy. Like let's get this guy one-on-one. Like, this guy's going to wreck a few games. And we went from 110th in defense to 10th. And basically we just found ways to force this guy to be blocked one-on-one and everything. So anyway, I think you got to, when you're at a school like Virginia Tech and you're talking about the blueprint there's certain positions you can pay, but you have to be able to develop the other positions to allow you to be the kind of team you want to be from a traditional standpoint. So what's your blueprint or plan to be able to develop those guys?
No, it's great stuff, brother. It's a great education, man. I know people just sit there like me, like, wow, this is great. This is great. And hope we can keep still having you on, man, as long as it works out for you.
Hey, man, this is awesome. I mean, I get to come on. I get to talk a little bit.
It's fun.
To visit with you. It's fun. So I tell you what I'll do. I couldn't come on before because of my contract. I wasn't allowed to do media during the season. So I'm just going to put it in my next contract that I have to be able to come on your show.
Yeah, come on this show.
So I'll be on that. That'll tick off the local people, I guess. But hey,
that'll be great.
You can't make everybody happy.
That'd be great. I appreciate that. That'd be awesome. I'd love to see that. If that happens, I want you to take a picture and send me that.
No, I'm going to put it in there because, when they hire you, they want you. So they'll give you whatever they want. I mean, look at some of these guys that are getting let go. I mean, like Brian Kelly's getting $54 million. I mean, so they want you, obviously. So what we'll do is we'll just put that in the contract next time that I have to be able to do media with you every Monday.
There you go. I love it. I'm down. All right, Coach. Listen, have a great rest of the week, man. Thanks, man. Terrific stuff.
You be good, man. Take care. See you, bud.
Right,
bye-bye.
There you go. Todd Grantham joined us. Yeah, I'm going to be a clause in his new contract. That's great. Thanks again to everybody. Again for your well wishes. Means a lot. Thank you. And thank you to everybody for your support. Please like and subscribe and tell people about the channel. It's free as we try to climb the subscription number. Thank you so much again for all of our guests today. Thanks to Jermaine Ferrell, Elmassian, and Todd Grantham. And it's good to be here. It's good therapy when tragedy happens like happened to our family on Saturday. So thank you so much for that. And we'll see you tomorrow on the Tuesday edition of the program. Enjoy the rest of your day. Folks, I don't know, not because of me in any way, shape, or form, but you don't get that in many places. You don't get a guy like Elmassian and Todd Grantham supplying that kind of knowledge and insight. I hope you appreciate it as much as I do. I know you do. Outstanding analysis, man. That's just wow. And now you'll think about that like me the rest of the day. You get to learn a lot. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Enjoy your Monday. We'll see you tomorrow on the Tuesday edition. Be good.